I, 19-year-old female, work at a hospital as an EKG technician. I monitor all of the patients' heart rates. I have my own little cubicle that I sit at with all the monitors and tend to mind my business. My mom is a nurse here, and she was the one who got me my job, as she's very well liked and respected. That said, the other nurses and doctors frequently strike up conversations with me and are kind to me. But again, I mostly keep to myself. My job doesn't require me to do much, but sit in one place and do my own thing. Occasionally, I will also fill in as secretary. I answer phone calls and handle all the paperwork. There, I have to sit with all the nurses. But still, I don't interact unless I have to, and most people seem to get the hint that I'm a rather quiet person. Recently, a patient came in, who I'll refer to as James for now. I overheard the nurses talking about James, saying, "He says he's a woman and dresses like one." Part of my job as secretary is to change batteries for the heart rate monitors when the nurses are busy. Later on, I went into James's room, greeted them, and asked if I could change their battery. James was very kind. Definitely gave me sweet old black lady vibes, calling me sugar and sweetheart. Hell, I almost teared up LOL. I also noted that James was very feminine in appearance. Makeup, long hair, and painted nails. I remembered the conversation I overheard earlier. Before I left, I asked James, "Do you have a different name you go by?" James almost seemed surprised, then smiled and said, "Jasmine, please." So she became Miss Jasmine to me. Later that week, Jasmine would be there for my other shifts. I'd visit her and do my routine battery change since I started offering to do them for the nurse. A couple of days ago, Jasmine asked me if I could tell the nurse she wanted some water. I said of course, and went to tell her nurse. At that point, I was used to calling her Jasmine, so when I told her nurse, I used that name, and I got a confused look and a who, which I understood, of course. I explained it was the patient in room 27. The nurse looked at some of the other nurses and they laughed, going, "You mean James, the one who dresses like he's a woman?" I didn't want to start anything, so I just said, "Yes, that's her." I guess I made the mistake of using her preferred pronouns anyway, because they all went quiet. It was the most awkward I'd ever felt. And again, odd overall because they always did their best to act friendly with me because I was my mom's daughter. I went back to work and sort of forgot about it. After work, on the drive home with my mom, she started scolding me for embarrassing her to the other nurses. They'd told her what I'd said and went, "I know that you just want to be respectful, but at a hospital you have to forget about all that." She also said that I was trying to make the nurse seem like a transphobic jerk. While I thought that was the last of it, I've been getting called off for my last few shifts, which they haven't done before. My mom says it's because of what I did and that they may fire me. She's extremely upset. So, am I the idiot? BTW. If you're going to use this post as an excuse to be trans-unfriendly, just know that I could not care less. Bigots just love to get a rise out of people, and I'm not giving you that satisfaction, LOL. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot for treating Jasmine with kindness and respect. I can see where, at a hospital, medical providers need to get down to specifics in terms of what body parts a person has, as it can affect their diagnosis and treatment. But you weren't providing medical treatment. Moreover, the comments you are in trouble for were made to a superior employee, not a patient. Go to HR. Tell them what happened and ask for information on what the hospital's specific policy is on the matter, if any, so you can abide by it in the future. It's also a way to clue them in on the fact that you seem to be being punished for this, without specifically tattling in a way that could have ramifications for your mom. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I work for a large healthcare system. We asked for preferred pronouns and names. If Jasmine was the preferred name and staff were not using it, there would be issues. When I started at the clinic, I used a person's preferred name and they teared up and said it was so special to hear that. I said, "Well, of course it's your name, Mama." I got a giant hug and still look forward to days like today when she is on my schedule. Doctors use preferred pronouns in charting as well. You are actually a wonderful human, and it's your coworkers that are jerks. If you are biased, you don't belong in healthcare. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last post and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been going on. First off, thank you so much for all the support and kind words on my original post. It really meant a lot during a tough time. So it's been about 3 months since everything went down with Miss Jasmine and the fallout with the nurses and my mom. Unfortunately, things haven't gotten much better at work. I ended up not getting fired, but my hours were cut way back. I went from working full-time to just a couple shifts a week. My mom said it was because they were overstaffed, but I knew it was because of what happened. The few times I did work, the atmosphere was really tense and uncomfortable. The nurses who used to be so friendly barely even acknowledged me anymore. I tried to just keep my head down and do my job, but it was hard not to feel like an outsider. About a month ago, I found out from another nurse that Miss Jasmine had passed away. Apparently, she had been battling cancer for a while and her condition had taken a turn for the worse. I was devastated. Even though I only knew her for a short time, she had made such an impact on me with her kindness and warmth. I wished I could have seen her one last time to say goodbye. I ended up going to Miss Jasmine's funeral, even though I knew none of my coworkers would be there. It was a small, intimate service with just her close family and friends. I felt a little out of place, but I wanted to pay my respects. After the service, Miss Jasmine's sister came up to me and thanked me for being there. She said that Miss Jasmine had mentioned me and how much she appreciated the way I treated her with respect and dignity. It meant so much to hear that. Meanwhile, things with my mom have been strained. She's still upset about what happened and feels like I embarrassed her in front of her coworkers. We've had a few arguments about it, with her saying that I need to learn to play the game and not rock the boat at work. I try to explain that I was just doing what I thought was right, but she doesn't seem to get it. It's been hard dealing with all of this, especially since I don't have many people to talk to about it. My friends don't really understand what it's like to work in a hospital and deal with these kinds of issues. I've been feeling pretty isolated and alone. But there have been a few bright spots too. A couple of weeks ago, a new patient came in who reminded me a lot of Miss Jasmine. She was an older transgender woman who was recovering from surgery. I made a point to treat her with the same respect and care that I showed Miss Jasmine, and she seemed to really appreciate it. It felt good to know that I could still make a positive difference, even in small ways. I've also been thinking a lot about my future and what I want to do with my life. Working at the hospital has shown me that I have a passion for helping people, but I'm not sure if this is the right environment for me. I've been looking into other healthcare-related careers that might be a better fit, like social work or counseling. It's scary to think about making a change, but I know I need to do what's best for me. Anyway, that's pretty much where things are at right now. It's been a tough few months, but I'm trying to stay positive and focus on the things I can control. Thank you again for all your support and advice. It really does mean a lot. I'll keep you all updated on how things go from here. AITA for being mad that my husband used our joint funds for my engagement ring, then cheated on me. My husband, 30 years old male, and I, 28 years old female, have been married for just under 3 months and have been having a huge argument about my engagement ring. We got married 1 month into him proposing to me. It wasn't a fancy wedding, and we had our honeymoon right after we signed the papers at the courthouse. He gave me a diamond engagement ring that's close to $8,000, a 2-carat lab diamond. He didn't have funds available readily as we are saving for a home, so he put this ring on a payment plan. I found out after we married and merged our finances that he has been withdrawing funds from our joint account, we make roughly the same, to finance this ring. I was just taken aback and honestly put off by the fact he is making me pay for a gift he gave to me. We have been having some arguments lately, and he feels that ring is a wedding expense and it's only fair that I contribute towards it too, and that as a woman of this day, I shouldn't hesitate to be an equal partner. I call nonsense and shared my thoughts on this whole thing. First, you don't make the recipient of a gift pay for the damned gift. An engagement ring is considered a gift in most modern societies even today. And I don't care if you disagree with that, it's just what the cultural expectations are, and we never discussed if he had any issues with that. Maybe if he was an adult enough, I would have had a discussion about how it makes him feel, and see if his values about tradition align with mine. Second, I've unintentionally partially paid for 2 installments now, which makes me a part owner of the ring. If I knew my husband was going to be making me pay for the ring, I wouldn't have agreed to buy it. Mutual consent is essential when a couple is deciding to invest in an asset. Owning a house or a car jointly requires 2 yeses, and I certainly wouldn't have said yes to jointly owning a ring he was supposed to give to me as a gift. So I can retroactively decide now I never wanted to own it, and have been demanding that my husband returns the ring to the store if paying for the ring hurts his pocket so much. Clarification, because I anticipate a lot of people might wonder, I've always wanted a nice ring, and I'm not going to apologize about it since we never had a real wedding party, and I knew I deserved a quality piece symbolizing our love. However, my then-fiancé also knew about the expectation I had of him and was upfront about things from the get-go. He could have discussed things with me like I mentioned earlier in my post, and we could have seen if we were truly compatible like that. What I didn't know was that he was plotting to get even with me by taking out a payment plan and using our funds to finance it. This caused him to flare up, and he berated me for being sexist towards him. I put my foot down, not because I can't afford it, or I refuse to financially contribute or give my husband a nice gift, but my husband's sheer stubbornness and tackiness about wanting me to pay is what pisses me off. I don't mind splurging for him, but this whole situation has left a very bad taste in my mouth. He expects me to apologize to him because I called his actions tacky and decisions scammy and in bad faith. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You got married after being engaged for 1 month. How long have you known this guy? And why are you rushing to set up joint accounts with someone you don't trust? And if your accounts are joined, how else is he supposed to pay for things? This sounds insane on all levels. Nobody is making good decisions. Comment 2. Firstly, what did he do with the rest of the money? Because I don't think it cost $8,000. I would be getting it valued and working out options. Secondly, if you as a couple, can't afford it, why on earth is he spending $8,000 on a ring? That is an absurd amount of money for a ring. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. A lot has happened since my last post about the engagement ring fiasco with my husband. After our big argument, things were tense between us for a while. We barely spoke and slept in separate rooms. I couldn't believe he had the audacity to make me pay for my own engagement ring without even discussing it with me first. It felt like such a betrayal of trust. A week after the fight, I noticed my husband acting strange. He was staying out late and being secretive with his phone. My gut told me something was off. One night, I decided to snoop through his emails while he was in the shower. What I found made my heart sink. There were emails between him and his ex-girlfriend from college, Sarah. They had been corresponding for months, even before our wedding. The messages started out innocent enough, just catching up. But as I scrolled, their exchanges became more flirtatious and intimate. In one email, Sarah mentioned how she regretted breaking up with him years ago. My husband replied that a part of him would always love her. I felt sick to my stomach. How could he say that to another woman, right before marrying me? The final straw was seeing they had made plans to meet up at a hotel while I was supposed to be away on a work trip. All the pieces suddenly fit together. His distant behavior, the ring payment plan, everything. He had been checked out of our marriage from the start. When I confronted him, he broke down crying and admitted the affair. He said he felt suffocated by our relationship and wasn't ready for the commitment of marriage. The expensive ring had been a last-ditch effort to prove to himself he was all in, but he couldn't go through with it. I was devastated. In an instant, our short marriage had crumbled. I immediately moved out and filed for an annulment. The whole experience left me reeling. How could I have been so naive and blind? Looking back, there were red flags I ignored in my desperation to have the perfect love story, like how he always shut down when I tried to discuss wedding plans, or his flippant attitude about marrying so quickly without really knowing each other. I realized I had been more in love with the idea of marriage than the actual man I married. In the months since everything unraveled, I've been picking up the pieces of my life. The hardest part has been facing my friends and family and admitting my marriage failed. I feel like the whole thing was a sham. I'm slowly healing and focusing on myself. I've started seeing a therapist to work through my trust issues. It's going to be a long road, but I know I'll come out stronger. If anything, this experience has taught me to listen to my instincts and not ignore warning signs. I deserve a love that is honest, respectful, and true. Thanks for letting me vent and share my story. Writing this update has been cathartic in a way. I know I'm not the first person to have their heart broken, and I won't be the last, but I also know I will survive this. Onward and upward. Ida for rejecting my dad's apology after he abandoned me post-divorce. I'm only calling this man my dad because he legally is. I, 17 female, was a product of a one-night stand that happened before my mom and dad got married. My mom had slept with her high school sweetheart when she saw him during her bachelorette party. It was naturally assumed that I was my dad's child, since there was no reason to really suspect I wasn't. That is, until I was around 10 and my biological dad came back into town. He had gotten a job where my dad worked, and my mom was acting so cagey that even I, a usually oblivious kid, had noticed that she was being weird. I guess that, combined with the fact my biological dad and I look quite similar, made my dad get a DNA test, and it revealed that I wasn't his biological child. Hell broke loose after that, with my dad interrogating my mom, who was stubbornly not saying a word, until my dad threatened divorce and then my mom caved and told the truth. My dad divorced her anyways and had my mom take full custody of me. He also told me that I wasn't his responsibility since I wasn't actually his child, and to ask my real dad to take care of me, along with other stuff that I'm not going to type out because it makes me want to put my fist into a wall. My biological dad wanted nothing to do with me and moved away months after the divorce finalized. My dad had visitation, but obviously never used it, and moved on with his current wife. My mom blamed me for my dad divorcing her, so she pretty much just handed me over to my aunt, who told her to stop using me as an emotional punching bag once she noticed that I was being mistreated. We have had very little contact since then, and I think of my aunt as my mom more than her. Now here's where I might be in jerk. My dad recently reached out to me saying that he's been going to therapy and realized that he shouldn't have taken out his anger about my mom cheating on him out on me, and that he really wanted to reconnect with me. I decided to meet up with him to politely tell him that while I do appreciate that he acknowledges how he treated me was wrong, I have zero interest in him getting involved in my life and vice versa. He insisted we meet at his and his wife's house, despite me wanting to meet in public. His wife wasn't there at least, but it was still super awkward. I tried to break it to him gently that I wasn't interested in being in his life again, but my dad refused to accept it. He was saying that we should be a family again. We could leave everything in the past, and that his wife really wanted to have me around. He eventually said that he loved me so much, and that I shouldn't keep holding what I did against him, since he learned that he was wrong to do so. I kinda just snapped since he kept steamrolling me and there was no actual apology for what he did, so I told him point blank that I could never love him again after what he did. That shocked him into silence, and I took that as my chance to leave and drove back home, where I told my aunt what happened. She was sympathetic for the most part, but suggested that I should apologize for telling my dad that I could never love him to clear the air, and then part ways. It's been a couple of days since this happened, and I haven't heard from my dad since then, except for him texting me that his wife really wants to meet me without mentioning what I said. I didn't feel anything in the moment, but now I'm starting to feel guilty about what I did. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You should also really stop calling him dad, as he has not earned that title. Anyone can be a father, but a dad is a special title. My wife and I were divorced 7 years ago, and everyone told me I should get a DNA test for my daughter because she is nothing like me. Even my son suggested it, and he was only 12. Here is the thing. I refused because it made no difference to me. The only person it would hurt is her. I don't suspect that she isn't my daughter, but even if she wasn't, she has been my baby for 14 years now. I understand your parental unit being angry at your mother because what she did is unforgivable. But what he did to the little 10-year-old girl who had only ever loved him and saw him as a dad is despicable and also unforgivable. Let go of the guilt. It's his turn to carry that torch now. Comment 2. Not the idiot. You showed grace to meet with him in person and to maintain a calm dialogue. He stripped love away when he rejected you. I know what others are saying. A hard time for him and all. That doesn't give him a pass to his actions and consequences. Also, 7 freaking years. He couldn't pull his head out of his butt for 7 freaking years? But wait, you're almost an adult and not a dependent child. And the wife really wants to meet you. Is she the real instigator behind this? Also, are there other children to give grandkids or help him in old age? These are things I would wonder and ask. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post. and for all the support and advice. It's been a chaotic couple of weeks since then, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been going on. So, a few days after I met with my dad and told him I couldn't love him again, he showed up at my aunt's house unannounced. I was pretty shocked to see him, and even more surprised when he handed me a letter. In the letter, he apologized for everything he had done and said in the past. He admitted that he had been selfish and cruel, and that he understood why I couldn't love him again. He also said that he respected my decision to not have him in my life, but that he wanted me to know that he would always be there for me if I ever needed him. I was pretty overwhelmed by the letter, and I didn't really know how to react. My aunt suggested that I take some time to process everything before deciding what to do next, so I spent a lot of time thinking about my relationship with my dad and how it had affected me over the years. As I was reflecting on everything, I remembered a conversation I had with my mom a few years ago. She had told me that when she found out she was pregnant with me, my dad had actually been really excited. He had always wanted to be a father, and he was thrilled at the idea of starting a family with my mom. But when he found out that I wasn't his biological child, it had completely shattered his world. He felt betrayed and hurt, and he didn't know how to cope with those feelings. Remembering that conversation made me realize that my dad's actions weren't just about me. They were also about his own pain and trauma. It didn't excuse what he had done, but it helped me understand it a little better. A few days later, I decided to reach out to my dad. I told him that I appreciated his letter and that I understood how difficult it must have been for him to write it. I also said that while I still wasn't ready to have a relationship with him, I was open to the idea of maybe talking more in the future. Since then, my dad and I have been texting a bit. It's been pretty casual so far, just checking in on each other and making small talk. But it feels like a step in the right direction. In the meantime, I've also been spending more time with my aunt. She's been such a rock for me throughout all of this, and I don't know what I would have done without her. We've been going on hikes together and trying out new recipes, and it's been really nice to have that quality time with her. Overall, I'm feeling a lot more at peace with everything that's happened. I know that my relationship with my dad will never be what it could have been, but I'm starting to accept that, and I'm grateful for the people in my life who have been there for me through it all. Anyway, that's pretty much it for now. Thanks again for all the support and advice. It really means a lot to me. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!